Come on, StreamYard. All right, we are officially live. We are kicking this off. So today I'm super excited. My guest today is Michelle Newman. She is the founder and CEO of the Newman. She's a former award-winning television executive turned transformational life coach and host of the Newman podcast, which is ranked number 7 in the top 10 valuable podcasts for midlife women. That is quite an honor. She helps others take charge of their future and get rid of self-limiting beliefs in order to live an abundant second half. Michelle, thank you so much for coming on PivotMe today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, April. I love what you're doing and I love your guest. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So right before we went live, we were just talking about that. Michelle's getting a lot of snow in her house right now. Well, not in her house, but adjacent. She's snow adjacent right now. They've got a lot of snow in Maryland right now. So kids are out and playing in it right now.
Yes, it is it's a snow day, which is a bit foreign to me because I grew up in Los Angeles. So I used to just read about snow days in books, but it's kind of fun that my kids are actually doing it. And it's funny because my husband was like, Michelle, we need to put the sticks out in our driveway. And I'm like, no, we're not going to get that much snow. It's not that big of a deal. Oh, yeah. No, we have like 9 inches right now. Cannot see our driveway. We're not driving anywhere.
So is your husband from there? Or is he from a place where it snows? Or did he just know about the sticks?
Well, you kind of know about the sticks because you start to see all your neighbors put the sticks out. But yes. He's from England, actually. But the other thing that's funny is, our neighbors put the sticks out when it was like 50 and sunny out. And I'm like, why are they putting the sticks out now? Like, I just didn't get it. And then my husband's like, I think we should put the sticks out. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Well, then when I finally realized, like, honey, we should put the sticks out. You can't because the ground's frozen.
So your neighbors knew what they were talking about.
So yeah, so I next time I thought they were stupid, but yeah, no, they were actually very smart, and I was the one.
Wow. You know, it's funny. We don't actually put the sticks out. Now I'm feeling like a snow newbie because we get snow in Reno, Nevada, but we've never put the sticks out, and that is brilliant. We have
a really long driveway too, and it curves, so you kind of need to know where to curve. So it's okay, that's all right.
Okay. Michelle's already overcoming in this in the PivotMe podcast today. Okay, let's talk about your background. You've got a fascinating background. You came from the entertainment industry. I believe you said over 20 years. Last role was VP of Programming and Marketing at CBS Daytime. I'm really curious how you shifted that. I know you developed and launched the Let's Make a Deal with Wayne Brady and The Talk with Sharon Osbourne. Does that sound right?
Yes. Yep. Love them to death. Wayne Brady, so talented. He's just amazing. But yeah, no, I spent over 20 years in the entertainment industry. Started out at Entertainment Tonight. Date myself with John Tesh and Mary Hart. So that was really fun. That was a blast. I got to meet some amazing people. I got to meet like Al Pacino and Cindy Crawford. I don't know where the picture is now, but I took a picture with Cindy Crawford, and literally I was like here and she was like here, and she was gorgeous. Wow. I mean, just Adonis. She was beautiful and super nice. I mean, everybody who wanted to take a picture with her, because we were all awestruck, she just stood there and took pictures with all of us. Yeah, no, she's super cool, super nice. That's awesome. Yeah, so I started there, and then I ended up at CBS, and that's a great place. That was really fun, and daytime was really fun, and it was fun doing Let's Make a Deal. We actually started the show in Vegas. Isn't that funny? So yeah, because it was for budget wise, we did it at the Tropicana. So I know it's not funny. So we used to have to go there we would tape on the weekends because that's when we can get people in the crowd, get the audience. So I would fly out to Vegas from Thursday to Sunday and then fly home. So that was really interesting. And that was challenging because I had a new baby. So that was kind of hard leaving her. But at the same time, it was good because then my husband had the bonding with her, especially on the weekends. So that was good. But yeah, so that was fun. And then we started The Talk, and Sharon Osbourne is still on there. And that was crazy, but that was really fun. And it's a great show still on there. So yeah, so I really enjoyed that time there.
So you've had this amazing career in entertainment. What was that's a pretty big shift. What was the catalyst for that shift?
Well, it's funny because, like I said, when my first daughter was young, I was traveling a lot to Vegas. I mean, she
Mhm.
wasn't even 1 year old when I was doing that. So, like, her first steps, someone else saw,
Mm,
which is hard as a mom.
sure.
So I got pregnant again with my second, and my contract was up after she was about 6 months old. And my husband and
Mhm.
I talked about it. And I said, I was an older mom. I had my first kid at 40, my second at 42. And I was like, you know what? I really want to stay at home for a little while. So we
Mhm.
both agreed. And so I did freelance and stuff. And then my husband got a job that took us to Maryland. So all of that happened. But, it was interesting because before I met my husband, I actually had a brain hemorrhage. So I almost died. I know, isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Talk
Okay.
about another
All right.
pivot. So I didn't think I was going to get married. I didn't think I was going to have kids.
Mhm.
So a month after my brain hemorrhage, I met my husband, and then it was kind of love at first sight. And we ended up getting engaged 6 months later, and then getting married 8 months later. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things, like when you know.
Yeah.
So when I had my kids and I had almost died, I was like, you know what? Life is short. I really want to take this time to sort of, raise my kids, be a stay-at-home mom. It was hard to leave. It was
Mhm.
really fun, but it was just kind of, you make those life choices
Yeah.
at that time.
Question for you. So with the brain, did I hear that right? That before the brain hemorrhage, you did not want to get married and have kids?
No, I always wanted to, but I
Oh,
just kind
you
of
did.
figured at that point it wasn't going to happen, because I think it was
Gotcha.
like 35, 36. And by that point, you're kind of like, you've kissed a lot of frogs and none of them are your prince.
Mhm.
So you're
Yeah.
like, that's just not going to happen for me, and it's okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then, I don't know if you've talked to anybody who's almost died, because I had the brain hemorrhage, and I'll never forget when they took me from the gurney to the ICU bed. It was calm. I was like, I literally thought I was dying, and for all intents purposes, I kind of was at the time.
Sure.
But I was like, it's okay. Like, all of the backstabbing at work and the someone cutting you off at the freeway, or
Mhm.
not getting the promotion you wanted, none of that mattered. It was like life was good, and I was peaceful and I was happy. But then getting a second chance, and then meeting my husband, and then having kids, it was a little difficult because, I became vice president, was developing these amazing shows. So it was a real interesting pivot point. In my
Yeah.
life.
So that's fascinating story. There's about 1,000 questions I want to ask, but I'm going to try to break it down to just a couple. How much do you think having the brain hemorrhage influenced you meeting your husband, or just the
A lot,
availability? Okay.
a lot. Because, can I tell you, I don't think I would have given him a second look. To be perfectly honest.
You can tell us. I don't know if you can tell him that, Michelle. He
No,
might
he
hear
knows.
this.
He
Okay.
knows. I mean, April, you probably didn't have this syndrome, but, like, I was dating, like, the crazy, exciting, not very committed type of guy.
Sure. Sure.
My husband is just a great man, really great soul, goofy. And it's funny, I just don't know if I would have given him a second glance. But
Hmm.
it was the right time, the right moment, and it worked, and it's still working. We got married in 2006. So what are we on? 14, almost 15 years?
Yeah. Wow. It's so interesting that, of course, what oftentimes that's the case, right? We face this terrible thing by all intents and purposes. You had a brain hemorrhage and you almost died. That's pretty significant, pretty life changing. And yet something so amazing came out of that experience that may not have occurred if that wasn't the
Absolutely.
precursor.
And I think that's true in life, though, it's when are you open? When are you open to opportunities? When are you open to meeting people? What kind of people are you bringing into your life? What are you
Mhm.
looking for? And sometimes you have to have that shift. Sometimes you
Yeah,
have to have, like, a big incident sort of shake you and wake you up to make
sure.
you available, and to give you different eyes to look at people, at situation with different eyes. And I think that's
Mhm.
what really happened to me. Um,
I love that phrase, to make you available.
Yeah.
That's a really good phrase, because it for those kinds of big changes, oftentimes we are pretty shut off from them. Oh,
Yeah,
that's a good phrase.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And it gives you, and that's one thing that can be hard is as
Mhm.
you see certain doors close, as you really want something super bad and it doesn't happen,
Sure.
the more you hold on to that, the more you're looking at that closed door, you're not going to
Mhm.
be able to see the other opportunities that are coming your way, and you're not available and open to them. And that's, with pivoting, I think that's key is the quicker you can get over whatever the disappointment is, whatever the brain hemorrhage is, whatever
Mhm.
the, opportunity that you really wanted doesn't come through, the sooner you can get through that,
Mhm.
the quicker you can move on and you can see what else is out there and what kind of energy are you putting out into the universe.
Mhm.
Are you, because people read your energy whether you realize it or not. But if you're just acting disappointed, like poor me, can you
Sure.
imagine if I would have been like, poor me, I almost died, that's not fair. I was like, hey, I saw my barista and I was like, hi, I'm so happy to see you. And she's like, here's your chai tea latte. But like, she was like excited to see me because here I am
Mhm.
excited to see her. And that's,
Sure.
and don't get me wrong, I've had a lot of disappointments in my life. I've had a lot of things not happen. But the quicker you can get yourself like, all right,
Mhm.
it didn't happen. I feel bad, but okay, I'm going to move on. And
Mhm.
moving forward is key. Don't stay still. Keep moving. And sometimes it might have to be the side. Sometimes it might have to be a little bit back, but just keep
Mhm.
moving. Um,
Yeah.
you know, good things
Yeah.
can happen.
For sure. One of the phrases we talk about a lot is, what is this teaching me? For me, I've never been, kind of my personal opinion, I've never been one that's like, oh, everything happens for a reason. Because sometimes really bad things happen. But I
Yeah.
think that we can find reason, and we can find things that we can learn from it. I don't necessarily think that it's all, created that way. But what we can do is say, okay, well, this terrible thing happened. What things can I learn from it? What can I experience that I wouldn't be able to experience before? And when we look for those opportunities, it totally changes whatever just happened to us. And some of them can be pretty significant.
True. And the other thing too with that, and I totally agree, what can you learn from that? And sometimes
Mhm.
it's like, okay, what can I learn so that if I see this happening again, I don't do it again? Because if
Exactly.
you don't learn, you're going to keep repeating the same mistake over and over again until you do learn. It's amazing how that it just happens. It will just keep coming to you until you finally are like, all right, I need to face this. What's my part in it? I need to own it. And
Mhm.
then you can move on from there.
Yeah. It sounds like you have another pivot that I wanted to talk about. But first, before we go into that, I'm thinking about the career that you had before, and then leaving that. How did you handle one of the things we talk about on PivotMe is when people make these pivots, how they deal with the identity change. Because if it sounds like you had, a prominent position, a visible position, people looked up to you, you probably had a team and all
Mhm.
these people in your network that kind of make us have this elevated status. How do you switch identities and go, now I'm going to go do something else where you don't maybe have that status or that clout?
It was hard, and I kept
Yeah.
looking at my phone. I wasn't getting the same emails that I usually get.
Yeah.
I was getting emails for play dates. I wasn't getting emails for
Sure.
like storylines and for The Young and the Restless. I was like, "What's going on?"
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
probably one of the hardest adjustments, was not being on 24/7, not,
Mhm.
having to respond for, what fire. There were always fires. So I need to
Sure.
put out a fire. And now I was, like setting up play dates and going to singing classes. But it's a little different because the identity was from a network executive to a mom.
Mm.
And then I realized I need some outlet. So I started doing consulting. So that helped a lot to be able to do the consulting and stuff like that. So that was really, that helped with the adjustment. And then moving out here and getting used to living on the East Coast. It's very different than Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So that was, another transition. And then starting my business has been really interesting because being a solopreneur, it's lonely and it's up to you. If you don't get up and do it that day, nothing gets done. There's nobody else doing it. So it's really interesting to take the skills and the relationships that I had before and help me with what I'm doing right now. And if I can say anything to your folks with PivotMe, pivoting, changing, whatever, it all comes down to relationships. So, I mean, I'm pulling back from my relationships, 15 years ago, and it's the best thing in the world to have somebody pick up your phone call. It really is. And return your texts or emails. So whatever you're doing or whatever you're going to pivot, you most likely sometime in your life through LinkedIn or emails or however are going to reach back one day to use your context that you've had with whatever you're doing. So it's all relationships. So don't burn any bridges.
Don't burn the bridges. And don't burn the bridges. And the other thing I heard in there is, if possible, continue to foster them, because
absolutely.
Eventually that will come around, that you might need them or they might need you. And so
and that's the other thing that's been nice. It's been nice for me to be able to help some of my friends too as well. With my podcast, The New Mid, I've been able to bring on some of my friends who are in midlife, who are still acting or in the entertainment industry, and give them a voice and stuff like that. So it's been nice. It's been really good.
So what made you decide to start the podcast?
Well, it's funny because I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Being in the entertainment industry, especially in daytime, the advertisers love 18 to 49. Like that is their demo. So when I turned 49, I was like, oh my God, I'm about to become irrelevant. Like I don't want to be irrelevant.
Oh my gosh.
As soon as I hit 50. Yeah, right. And I was like, I didn't want to party, nothing. And so what a great example for my kids, right? So my mom and my best friend, and my parents, both my parents came out, and my best friend from LA surprised me and showed up. And that was, I didn't realize how much that would mean to me. And then a couple of my girlfriends from here in Maryland, that meant the world to me. And then I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm still young. Who cares? 50 is just a number. And by the way, tell people you're 50, you're doing pretty good. Like, yeah. So then I was like, you know what? I want to help other women like me. Like, I want to help them reinvent themselves. And I want to help them realize their purpose and their clarity. And if we need to, just what can I give them? How can I help women like me realize that it's not bad. It's not over. It's only, we're still climbing. So I talked the local, I was good friends with the gentleman Fred Manning, who owns Manning Media, and he owns the local radio stations here that are all music, by the way. And I talked him into giving me a half hour on the radio. So he's like, well, it was funny. I put the deck together for The New Mid, and I was like, look at all these women who are amazing, who are in midlife. Like, they're crushing it. And I think there's an audience out there, and I really think people want to hear this. And we have a lot of good local people here in Frederick. So I literally got to the 4th page in the deck, and he's like, done, let's do it. I was like, yes.
Wow.
So, so I used my skill. I wasn't radio, but I was TV. So I understood that, and I didn't know where to go. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not tech savvy. I'm just not. So it was wonderful to have him, believe in me, his crew there at the radio station. They're wonderful. They're super helpful for me with editing and promoting it. So that's been great. So it was a year in October. So that was exciting. So I'm about 18 months in. So that's been fabulous. And then from there, where I met you, I met you trying to figure out my brand at Brand Builders. They were like, Michelle, you need to be a life coach. Like, you're so bubbly and energetic. And I used to be an aerobics fitness instructor. I did spin and all this other stuff. And they're like, you're a natural teacher. And I was like, I don't know, should I, shouldn't I? And so then I was like, you know what? You're right. And then people just started coming. And I have this amazing academy, April, of midlife women who are just crushing it. It's just, it's a great community. Because I don't know about you, but I love community. And with this pandemic and isolation, it's just so nice to have a great group of women.
Huge difference. So I heard, so thank you for sharing that. That is amazing. And community is really what it's all about. And a lot of why we show up and do the things we do is being part of and also creating community for people like that. There was there's a lot of change. I mean, I love your background, and I still want to ask about the Ironman as well. We got to get to that here in a second, but there's so much change in that, Michelle. Those changes, those all take a lot of courage. Where does that come from? Where does the backbone to make all these significant changes in life come from?
Okay, so I think men do this much better than women, to be perfectly honest. But you just push ahead and you're just like, I'm going to do this. And you just believe in yourself, and you just, what can go wrong? They'll just say no. You know?
Yeah.
I was so convinced. And I just knew it in my bones. And when you know that, when you have that conviction, you can move mountains. It's amazing what you can do. And just having that faith and belief in yourself is huge.
Yeah. It's also contagious. I mean, people see it in you and they get swept up in that. So when you have this like unwavering faith in this project or this launch or whatever it is, people get excited and they get swept up in your enthusiasm for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
That's huge, huge. So tell us about the Ironman. Tell us that story.
Okay, this is crazy. This is pre-kids. We were talking about that. Pre-children.
Our race stories before kids.
Yeah, exactly. So I was hanging out with a group of crazy people, and I started doing triathlons because I wanted to get over my fear of the ocean. So I know, which is crazy because I lived in Manhattan Beach and Hermosa Beach for a long time. So it was good not to be scared of the ocean.
Sure.
So I started doing mini triathlons and then graduated, to Olympic, then half Ironman. And you start hanging around with these people, right? Because you need to train and all of that. So then they're like, let's do an Ironman. And we're like, cool. Well, if we're going to do one, let's do it somewhere fun. So we're like, where do you want to go? So somewhere fun and somewhere we could qualify to get in too. Those are two big things. And New Zealand, New Zealand, we did it in New Zealand in 2003. And oh my gosh, it was fun. It was a lot of work. Like, all you think about is what you're going to eat, when you're going to sleep, what your training schedule is, and then work, family, everything else is like way. I don't know how I kept my job during that time. Sure.
It's a full-time job.
It is. You have to train before work and after work. And so that was pretty funny. Well, we were doing a century ride literally in Palm Springs, literally 1 month before the race.
Century ride, by the way, is a 100-mile bike ride for those who are.
Oh, yeah. So we were at mile 51. I kid you not. And we were in a peloton. We were in a group. And someone behind me took out my back tire. So the next thing, I mean, I remember looking down to see that this person took out my back tire. And the next thing I knew, one of my friends was standing over me going, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? I had a concussion. I had broken my ring finger. And I didn't realize what was going on with my right knee. But after several doctors, and finally I went to a PT in Santa Monica who's amazing. He literally took my leg, like my knee was bent, and he took the bottom part of my leg, like my shin, and here's my knee joint. And it went like this and this, like this. Like, that's not supposed to do that. And he's like, no, it's not. So I had a torn posterior cruciate ligament, the PCL, which is very hard to tear, by the way. It's really hard.
Go-getter. Delivered. Yeah.
Absolutely. So 1 month before, I tore my PCL, and I was like, I didn't know. So I was in PT like religiously until I went. He tried to, put me back together as best he could.
1 month before.
I paid all my money. I bought a new bike. I've done all those hours of training. I spent Christmas Day, out on PCH, you know. So, yeah, so we get there 2 days before the race. I can't walk. So the day before the race, I just lay on the couch the entire day and pray I can do the Ironman. And sure enough, somehow I got it done. It was 15 hours, 15 hours, but I did it. I was hoping to do it in 13 hours, but it took me 2 more hours. But hey, I got it done.
Oh my, you said 2 days before you couldn't walk?
I couldn't walk, no.
Because of your knee injury?
Because of my knee injury, because we got to New Zealand and there was a huge festival. So you want to walk around and you want to know the town. So I was walking around and going to all the booths and everything and setting up my bike. And then all of a sudden I was with my friends and I was like, oh my God, I can't walk. Like I can't put any pressure on my right leg.
Oh my
and
gosh.
They're like, oh my gosh. So luckily one of the guys in our group was dating a nurse. And she came along and I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And she's like, nothing. She goes, you need to lay on this couch for the entire day and see if you can walk tomorrow. I was like, okay.
Wow. And you still did it. I mean, did people support that? I feel like people around you would be like, this is a bad idea. Well, you're with the triathlon.
No, you're with triathletes. They're like, get up.
Yeah, exactly. Suck it up. Yeah. Yeah, David.
You know what, April, I have to tell you though, we're talking about pivoting and we're talking about, what does it take to get to the next level?
Yeah.
And honestly, and I think your audience could relate to this, but it does take a lot of discipline. And I think being a former athlete, and I think you could relate to this, you learn how to have that kind of discipline. You learn what it takes to like get up every morning, make sure you're doing your morning routine, make sure you're following through, especially when you have your own business. Because like I said before, if you're not doing it, no one else will be doing it.
Sure.
And I have to say, I learned the daytime soap opera actors, they are so disciplined and they do their homework and the stuff they have to do is incredible. They were great examples. And I also have one other example too. Betty White. I had the fortune, I know, right? I mean, she's everything you think she would be. I had the fortune, the opportunity to spend an entire day with her. We were doing a pilot for the $25,000 pyramid, and she was a celebrity contestant, and then there was a regular contestant that she'd work with. She showed up with just her makeup kit, no entourage. She wasn't like fancy. She wasn't demanding. Anyone who wanted a picture with her, anyone who wanted to talk to her, she was just kind. And then she wanted to make sure the executive producers were happy with her gameplay, that she got everything she needed to do. I mean, such an example of a great workout, down to earth, happy, laughed. She laughed all the time, just easily laughed, So I felt very fortunate to have been around some amazing people.
I love that you tell the backstory of that, because it's easy if you're on this side of the camera to assume that maybe there's a natural gift or it's not as hard. They make it look easy, right? I mean, what we're seeing looks easy. And I love you painting the picture of actually it's tremendous discipline. And it sounds like some of the people, at least Betty White, has some humility and always a student. And I love that. Good, because I love that woman. I'm so glad to hear that.
Oh, yeah. I didn't, you know what? I'm dating myself, but it was in the days when I didn't have a camera on my phone at that time. And I'm like, oh, I would have taken a picture now.
For sure. Oh, she's so hilarious. I love Betty White quotes. Real quick, I love how you were talking about being a former athlete, and it teaches you discipline, but it also teaches you what we were kind of joking around about of what's the phrase? Embrace the suck. I think David Goggin used it, but I think it's from the Marines originally. Anyways, that it's you're not going to love every step of it. It's really consistent execution that gets us there. And especially when we're a business owner, that's tough. I mean, to your point, that's the biggest adjustment. So I work with a lot of business owners, and many of them are much larger than that, but sometimes they're newer, less than 5 years. And that's an adjustment of if I don't show up, if I don't move, especially if I'm a solopreneur, nothing moves ahead unless you get up and you direct your team or you do it yourself. And that's such a big adjustment, because when we come from the corporate world, we our achievements and we're like, well, I did this and I did this and I did this, and not to downplay the achievements of the corporate world, but they're usually collaborative events. It's like, I did this. Well, IT worked, which is how you got on that video. And, the ops team was working fine, which is how you got to the right location because someone else booked your trip. And it's actually so much more collaborative. And then you own your own business and you're like, oh, well, this is going to be interesting. I need to make sure that all these parts and pieces move. And it's a huge adjustment for new entrepreneurs. I'm glad you shared in your journey. No doubt there was many hiccups along the way.
Yeah, no, it's great. And it's consistency. It's just being consistent. And like Malcolm X says, the more you do something, the better you get it. And it's true. It's absolutely true. So I just want to encourage people to not get discouraged. That when it is hard, you know what? You're right where you're supposed to be. So just figure it out, keep going, and show up for yourself, show up for the people that you're serving. And they'll be there. It just takes some time.
In this space, since you've made the transition over to coaching into podcasting, have you thought about throwing in the towel? Has there been a moment where you?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, yeah. I mean, you've got to admit it's work doing these podcasts. I mean, it's not and it kind of cracks me up because there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to do a podcast, and you're like, okay, but what type of podcast are you going to do? Some people will just turn the microphone on and start talking, which is great. But you and I, we do interview podcasts, and so, and, like, for instance, I'm going to be interviewing Joan London tomorrow. And I mean, I have a lot of homework, and I'm, she interviews people for a living. So interviewing her is
no pressure, Michelle.
It's just a little intimidating, right? But, so that's great. But, and then, having my coaching and like you are a great example of this, continual learning, just, continual more education, upping your game. And then, there are 2 children in the house that need their mom, that are virtual learning. So that's always exciting. And then, there is such a thing as social media. So trying to learn all of that as a midlife woman is very fascinating too. So
absolutely.
It's a lot to juggle, but it's fun.
So we were, so earlier, actually, I was just talking to Kristen Cullen from Brand Builders Group, and we were talking about the social media hurdle that a lot of people face. So was that a hurdle for you? It just being much more, what I've seen in the past is just being much more visible in social media, that sometimes can be a hurdle for people. Did you struggle with that?
Okay, so if you talk to any, like, I know, and I apologize for the guys out there. I know your audience is mostly men. So you can talk to your wives or your girlfriends, but especially moms. If you were to grab a mom's phone and look at her camera, it's all her children.
Totally.
She's never she's not in it at all. Like, it's her children or it's her husband and her children.
Yeah,
but it's not
her. Sometimes.
So can I tell you how hard it is? Because everybody's like, oh, on social media, you got to post pictures of yourself. And I'm like, scrolling through my phone going, I don't have any of myself.
Here's my LinkedIn photo. Use that one instead. It's totally true.
So I've just recently been getting better, and I've been like giving my phone to my husband, and I'm like, okay, take a picture of me. And I'm like,
so true.
How does that look? It's just hilarious. So
I was thinking when I got into podcasting, I'm like, the thing I wish I would have known more about is posing, because like we're getting real here on this. So every time, so my sister is this amazing makeup and hair artist. She does it for magazines and for movie shoots. She's just unbelievable, right? None of those skills translated over to this sister, right? So every photo that was taken, as she would say, I stood like a linebacker. Like the photo's going, I'm like, every single one. And she's like, turn sideways, pop the hip. Dude, I had none of that.
One foot in front of the other, Yeah.
I looked like I was carrying a kettlebell in every photo that was taken of me. And she's like, why do you do that? No, this is terrible. So I joke around and like, that's what I needed to know more of, is like how to be photographed. Because I was like, yeah, those photographs look amazing. She's like, they took about 800 of them for that one photo. And for anyone who's out there who's about to have a photo shoot, just so you know, I mean, it's just anyways, and that's a part of this, your personal brand, and for the podcast and for the coaching that you're doing, you really have to have this robust personal brand, which is so important. But that is the flip side of it, the images and all the social media. I mean, that's a piece of it.
But you know what's interesting? So I interviewed Sir Richard Branson's former attorney, and she said, because I was like, okay, you got to tell me, what is a billionaire's mindset? Like, she was one of the very first attorneys for Virgin.
Wow.
So he was on the ground floor, and she had some interesting stories before he was who he is now. One of the tips she said is Richard's his brand. Like he is, Sir Richard is, and she's funny because she just calls him Richard, but he's, when he was having a trouble with Virgin Airlines, and British Airways was giving him a hard time, he dressed up as a flight attendant.
I love this guy.
But he jumped out, he had hot air balloons, and he did crazy things, jumping out of airplanes and off cliffs and whatever other crazy stuff he does. But he's his brand. I mean, that is his brand. That's huge. It really kind of set with me, and whoever is doing this type of stuff too, you are your brand. So what is that going to be? So you'll see me with my kids. Like I'm a midlife mom who has younger kids, and they're keeping me young, and that helps my mindset. And so, you won't see me in a bikini with tattoos on the edge of in the beach posing. That's just that you're not going to see that. Although I do have to say, one of my goals for 2021 is to get back into a bikini. I am gonna work on that. We'll see what happens.
And it sounds like we need a side tattoo. That's what I heard too, Michelle. Like
side tattoos?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. The bikini goes with a side tattoo with the drink on the side of the pool.
Okay.
Pretty sure they go hand in hand. I think that's amazing. That's so important. Okay, so we're going on a tangent a little bit, but I think this is so important. Michelle, something you said that's so critical when you're saying grab the phone of any mom and there's not photos of her. And that as soon as you said grab the phone, I'm like, I know where she's going, because I had this hurdle myself, as I'm not of the selfie generation either. And so the idea of like hitting that little reverse the camera back on you, what's an adjustment? I remember the first time I did it out in public. I mean, just to be real, I felt ridiculous. I felt like, oh my God, am I really going to be like a 22-year-old standing there smiling and staring at my phone? The answer is yes. Yeah, eventually I got used to it, but that was a huge, huge hurdle for me. But the point I wanted to make is, you said in the camera, there's not a lot of photos of the mom. This is something I feel really passionate about, so I want to point this out. Moms, if you're listening right now, get in the frame with your kids. Do not say, oh, I don't look good. Oh, I'm not dressed nice. Oh, my hair's not done. Get in the frame with your kids. My dear friend, Kat and I talk about this a lot, that our daughters are actually best friends. Your daughter's watching you. I'm raising two girls. I have a 7 and a 9-year-old. And if I say, oh, my hair's in a messy bun, I don't want to get in, what am I telling my kids? Like, you have to print before you can get photographed, before we can have documentation of our family photo. And so I don't want to lob additional stress and pressure on moms, because, man, it's tough, and it's definitely tough in this season. But get in the frame. Get in the frame. Gosh, they're watching you. I mean, we're role models, not just in the times that we want to be, but in the times that we don't want to be. Right. And if I don't want my daughter to not get in the frame because she doesn't look good enough to be in the frame, then I sure as hell need to get in there with her.
You know what's hilarious too is my daughter, my 9-year-old, I have a 9-year-old too. She one time took my picture, and she's like, Mommy, look. And I'm looking at her, and she's getting rid of my crow's feet. She knows how to do that. I had no idea how to do that.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Okay, so can I tell you a funny story about starting to learn how to do selfies?
Yes.
So I have short arms. Like, my husband would always call me T-Rex. He just thought it was hilarious because I have little arms. So trying to do a selfie with little arms is really hard. And when I couldn't do it, I would only get like this part of my head. Oh my God. Some of the first selfies are hilarious. So.
Oh God, that was a great story. You should absolutely share that. That story is great. This is why they made like the stick, the selfie stick.
Yeah.
which also I've got a major hurdle over. I mean, I
Me
just
too.
don't like, I don't see anyone over 35 using a selfie stick. I'm
Yeah,
not judging you if you do, but like, I just can't.
I
Anyways,
know.
I mean, it's practical, but
You know what's funny is in my Facebook group, the Newman private Facebook group, it's for women
Mhm,
in midlife. Every morning, I'm almost on a year now. It started with COVID. I would go
mhm.
on a walk and I'd be like, what day is it? Is it Monday? Like, I couldn't remember. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start saying good morning. So I started saying good morning to my group and I tell them it's Monday, February 1st, whatever it was.
Mhm,
That's today. But, I started in March. And
mhm,
then I just started saying, inspirational quotes because people
mhm.
were sad and frustrated.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, I'm just going to start doing this. Well, now that I've been doing it for almost a year, it gets easier.
Yeah.
It just gets easier. So
Does.
if you're out there and you're trying to figure out if you've got short arms like me,
You have a lot of selfies
it's,
of your chin. It's
yeah,
okay.
it's okay.
Oh, it's just showing up and even telling the stories, like the story you just shared, sharing that behind the scenes. One thing we talk about a lot internally is that people can admire our accomplishments, but they'll identify with us in our vulnerabilities. And so we have to say, like, here's my first 3 selfies. They're all of my chin. Or here's me trying to figure out this, or sharing the story about how my sister's like, why do you square off in every photo that's taken of you? It's terrible. Like, turn sideways, pop the hip. Sharing that, it's the humanity of it. It's like the humanness of the experience. And I think we do our disservice when we take that out of business.
Yeah.
I came from the corporate world as well, and yeah, I've been an entrepreneur for a while, but definitely the majority of my career, I had side businesses, but I mostly was in the corporate world, and we sucked the humanness right out of it. We had such perfectly crafted messages, and we were very particular about what we saw as our brand, but there was no humanity to it. There's no depth to our brand. It was just, okay, well, here's my deliverables, here's my LinkedIn
Well,
profile,
what's
here's
really
something to
interesting? What's really interesting, and talking about my little one, like taking out my crow's feet on the picture.
yeah, yeah,
They
it's
were
adorable.
saying that like Instagram stories and lives are
Mhm.
people are liking them more because they're authentic. So if we
Yeah,
were to mess up right now, that's,
yeah,
it's live. That's what it would be.
sure,
So,
sure.
and I think people are liking that more because they are wanting more
Mhm,
authentic. They're tired of the airbrushed and like,
mhm.
the everything is perfect,
Sure,
scenarios. So,
absolutely. So one thing in the content and the things that you do both in your Facebook group and on your podcast, can you give us some of the insights, what the topics that you discuss, and kind of the journey that you take people through, like where they start at and then where they finish with Michelle?
okay, well, what's interesting is I just did a workshop, so it's just so funny
Mhm,
that you're saying that, and I'm just finishing it. And so one of the things that come to mind is, you know, and as a life coach, this is kind of life coaching 101, and I'm sure your people have heard this before, but it's really, how do you look at your circumstances?
mhm,
It's how you think about them. It's your thoughts, it's your mindset, because that leads to
mhm,
your attitude and your feelings, and then how
mhm.
you're going to react, how you're going to act, and then that's going to give
Sure.
you your results.
Yeah.
So it all starts and ends with your mindset, and
Mhm.
taking a look at, like, what are your I ams? What is that
Oh
voice
yeah.
that's in your head? What are you saying to yourself? Is it negative? Is it positive? And then
Mhm,
a huge thing for me is, who do
mhm.
you surround yourself with? And
Your
they say
group.
you're the sum
Yeah.
total of the 5 people that you hang out with. But I want
Mhm,
to put another little exclamation point on that. You should have 3 types of people in your life. You should have the people that who are in your life right now will cheer you on. They
mhm,
should be positive. They shouldn't be dragging you down. They
mhm.
shouldn't be jealous. They shouldn't be saying, no, that's a bad idea. You want them
Sure.
to be honest, though. You don't want them to blow sunshine up, You
Yeah.
do want them to be like, hey, that might not be wise because of XYZ, and actually have
Mhm,
good things about it, but not people that are just going to drag you down, or people who are just negative and downers all the time.
mhm.
The second type of people you want in your life is, they're just a little bit above where you want to be. Okay. So, they've walked the walk, but you're like, oh my gosh, I love that they're climbing and they're close to where they am, but they're a little bit above me. And then the next set group of people, or, that you want, they should be 10, 15, 20 years where you want to be, so that you can look up that they've had the path, that they can be like a mentor, and they can help you lead the way. And then the final thing I'll wrap up is, I really believe that in the law of attraction. I believe when you put things out in the universe that it's going to come back to you, and I try to get people to imagine, okay, what is it that you want? What do my academy is a year-long program. So what I'll do is I'll be like, where do you want to be in 12 months? Who is that person? What do they look like? What's in their life? And we really break it down. And then we go and we back, like, where will we be in 9 months? Where will we be in 6 months? Where will we be in 3 months? And then we break it down into 12-week cycles, and then week by week. So we get really down, because you want to do small steps.
Sure.
And, atomic habits, tiny habits, all of those have really proven to work.
Sure.
So we do small little baby steps, because it's a lifestyle. Like, it's not a quick fix.
No.
It's not something that's just going to change overnight. But with every tiny little habit, you'll build a really abundant second half in lifestyle. And then the last thing I will leave you with is something, and a lot of people have been talking about this, but I'm going to reiterate it, is the Mark Twain, eat the frog.
Oh, yes.
Eat your
Such a
frog
fan.
first. It really makes a difference.
Can you explain what that is? We talked about a few podcasts, but for those who are listening that aren't familiar with what eat the frog is, tell us, Michelle.
So Mark Twain talked about doing the worst thing first. So, and he calls that eating a frog. So the thing that you really don't want to do it first thing. And then if you have two things that you really don't want to do, eat the fatter frog. So eat the one that you don't want to do the most. And do those first. So then the rest of the day, the worst things you've had to do you've taken care of them, and they're done. And it's funny, because your frog might change, it might move, but just keeping that top of mind. And I have one of my clients, she's so funny. She took a picture and showed me. She has a big frog as her picture on her phone.
Oh, I love it.
And so it reminds her, like, in the morning, there's the frog. So she has to eat her frog.
So we did a podcast on Eat the Ugliest Frog First, and it's talks about the book as well. But one of the things that we talk about is when we don't eat our frog, that it occupies what I always called mental real estate. It doesn't go away. It's constantly there. And I'm like, imagine you wake up in the morning and there's your frog sitting there when you turn off the alarm, and you're brushing your teeth in the morning, your frog's still sitting there. You're constantly aware that you've got to do this thing. It doesn't matter what the thing is. It could be, I have to schedule a doctor's appointment that I'm really dreading because I'm worried about the results, or it could be I have to fire this client, or whatever the frog is, it's this big thing that has to be done. And I'll add, and has to be done by you, but you're putting it off. It occupies so much rental real estate. And one of the things that we talk about is high performers, they still have frogs. In fact, many of them have more frogs. They just get really good at eating them fast. Like, oh, there's that thing I don't want to do. It's not about the time that you dedicate to the frog. Like, oh, it's just 45 minutes. No. It sucked your energy and your mental real estate for hours, knowing you had to do this thing and you kept putting it off. So you really do get back hours by eating that frog fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And right, it doesn't take up your time, your mental space. And you spend so much time worrying about it and thinking about it that it's like, just all that time that you're thinking about worrying about it, just do it.
Do it. Yeah. And usually they never taste as bad as you think they're going to taste.
Right.
Like, usually you don't get into it and go, oh my God, that was way worse than I thought. Occasionally that happens. But most of the time it's the anticipation of agony that's way worse than the agony itself.
Right. Exactly. Oh, and then the other thing that's hugely important, and this is a Tom Brady thing too, for you gentlemen out there, water. Drink water. It's huge. That it will make a big difference, especially for those of us who are in midlife. It's funny because one of my clients, she didn't realize how dehydrated she was all the time. And She goes, you know what? I kind of feel like the Tin Man. I kind of feel like I've been oiled, like my joints are oiled. And
Wow.
a lot of the aches and pains that she used to have are gone now. And
Wow.
it makes a big difference to drink water. It helps your brain, will help you focus. Just so many benefits. And then you might want to add some electrolytes in it as well, little lemon, little ginger.
Sure.
That helps as well. Not just, but do drink just water. Try to cut back on that alcohol, especially when you're getting older. Alcohol and sugar, they can cause dementia and Alzheimer's. So yeah, that alcohol, not good for us.
Replace it with water. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I was just thinking about actually one of my clients that I work with. He drinks something called Rocket Fuel. I think maybe it's from the Gundry diet. Anyways, it's a combination of a bunch of leafy grains, and then it has ginger in it and turmeric and a couple other things. It's amazing, and he's got me drinking it now, and I love it. You really do feel amazing afterwards, and it's really just a green juice that you're making at home. But
That's awesome. Well, I think you should put it in the show notes.
I should
put the recipe in there.
Peter, I'm going to put your Rocket Fuel in there. So
yeah,
shout out.
I think you should.
Peter. So just a couple more questions real quick. But first, let me ask you this. Michelle, where do people find you? Where do they go to connect with Michelle?
Well, all my social media platforms are at the New Mid. So THEMIDNEW, and I'm not the Corvette, the engine for the Corvette. Because when I first started and you typed in Google the New Mid, all these Corvette engine parts came up, and I'm like, oh, great.
I totally understand. There's a lingerie model named April Garcia. I was really conflicted.
Oh, nice.
I mean, I get mistaken for her all the time, Michelle. It's a real problem. But I was like, oh, we have to fight that SEO to get that away from her. So I totally hear you.
So yeah, and then I'm at thenewmid.com. You can reach me there. That's fine.
Perfect. What lies ahead for you? What's next for Michelle? It sounds like you do a lot of vision casting.
Well, it's so interesting. Well, it's really interesting that you say that, because, for me, I'm really excited to, as being podcasters, I'm really excited to sort of up my game, because I really want to serve my clients and show them and learn from some of the best people out there. So I really want to try to up my game with getting a little more guests that people will be interested in.
Yeah.
And so that's really exciting for me. I'm also expanding my coaching practice. So I'm going to be launching a digital course this fall, which I'm excited about, because I have more people who, I know you launched your digital course.
I did.
That's a lot of work, but exciting.
It is. It's worth it. It's a great way to multiply your impact too.
What's that?
It's a great way to multiply your impact too. Just really reach a lot of people that really need what you've got. It's a great way to do it.
Yeah. So that's what I'm hoping to do. I'm following in your footsteps with that. And then, I really want to do a TEDx talk.
Oh, good.
That's on the list. And then a book. So
what's the topic of your TEDx talk? Do you already know?
It's between a couple, so I'm just kind of ruminating on them right now.
Sure. Have you taken the world-class keynote?
I did. I think that was the last course I took. Yeah.
Okay. That's my next. Well, actually, I'm taking captivating content, but then I'm doing the keynote one afterwards. Oh, exciting. I actually usually ask this question 2 questions ago, and I accidentally skipped it. So we kind of talked about this a little bit, but I would just want to ask it more succinctly. Michelle, if you could tell the world one thing, what would it be?
You mean besides drink water? Well, that's really interesting, because I think for women, and I know your audience is mostly male, so hopefully bear with me, guys, but it's self-confidence. I think that a lot of us have huge lack of self-confidence, that we put other people before ourselves, that it's easy for us. I like to say we give everybody else the whole cookie and we take the crumbs, that it is okay. We are in midlife now. It is okay to start to take the whole cookie for yourself. Other people can eat some of the cookie crumbs too. It's okay. Don't feel guilty about it. grow into the person that you want to be, that you know you can be, and get the education, get whatever that you need to get you to the next step. And don't stop growing, don't stop learning, but really believe in yourself, see the person that you are, get from behind the shadows, get in front of, take a picture with you and your kids, like be in the pictures, be proactive in doing things for your life, because you know what, we only have one life to live, and the sands in our hourglass are getting less, and every day is a gift, and now is the time to go for it. Like, really dig down deep and go, keep moving. I'm all about moving forward. If you have to move to the side for sometimes, that's fine, but stay in motion and keep going. And it's okay. And there's going to be people that are going to support you and lift you up. But, really, when you close your eyes at night, it's you. And when you open your eyes in the morning, it's you. And like every morning, I thank God. I open my eyes and I'm like, thank you for today, God, and help me have a productive day.
Wow.
And then bam. And then I'm off to, my feet are on the ground. I feel my feet on the ground. And I know a lot of times people will take their shoes and socks off and, walk around in the earth to get really grounded. Well, I do that even though I have carpet in my bedroom, but I make sure my feet feel the ground in the morning when I wake up. Like, that's hugely important. I have water by my bed. I drink some water first thing, and then I do my meditation and my journaling, but really, whatever it takes for you to get to the point where you believe in yourself, where you have a purpose, where you have drive, do that. Like, grab life by the, just go for it, because, we're still young enough. We're still able, but you know what? Those days are getting less. So it's time. It's time to do it now. It's time.
Gosh, it's time to do it now. There's your TED Talk right there. That's beautiful. It's funny. I think we quoted Tony Robbins earlier, but he always says, "When would now be a good time?" And I always love that phrase. So the time to do it's now. That's a powerful message, Michelle. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey and what you guys are doing, what you're doing in the new mid, and also that transition from the world that you used to be in to this world, and the courage and the tools that you use to get you there. You provided such great information for us today. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much for having me. And I hope some of this is helpful for someone out there.
For sure it is. No, as you were talking, we wrote down, I had lots of, really some really good notes to apply. So I think there's a lot of really applicable things that we can put into play right away. I'll put the links that you gave us into the show notes so everyone can connect with Michelle. If you haven't already hopped on and subscribed to her podcast, definitely do. Some great information. It sounds like some great guests as well.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. No, we have, it's funny. I have a woman talking about money right now, because we all have, I think sex and money are taboo topics. So, so having a healthy relationship with money,
so true.
And there's also a woman on there for you women talking about midlife and hormones and weight and what's going on with our bodies. So all that kind of stuff is really good.
Sounds like a lot of great information. So, that's great. Yeah. And I love the money topic too. We've talked about that. Everyone's got a money story.
All right. So actually, just a little plug for next week. It's American Heart Association month, and it's all about women and heart. And so I have 2 ambassadors from the American Heart Association talking all about women, because heart attacks is the #1 killer for women, not cancer, not breast cancer or uterine cancer. It's actually heart attacks.
Wow.
So they talk a lot about it and the signs and the symptoms. That's going to come out next Monday for the new kid. But even more so than that, the doctor talks about COVID and heart disease.
Oh, interesting.
It's really eye-opening, shocking, some information that's coming out now with COVID.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a must listen to. I'm actually going to tag you on it. I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to send it to everybody I can, because the information that's coming out about COVID and heart is like scary. It's scary. You don't want this disease. You
No,
really
you
don't.
do not. No, you do not. Even if it, yeah, agreed, agreed. So thank you for doing that, and also for educating people. That's a huge piece. Yeah, just getting that information out. I'm glad that you're able to be a conduit for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for everything you're doing, April, and helping people pivot, because wow, have we had to pivot in the last
Right,
year. Your
right.
your title couldn't be more
I
appropriate.
know. We were joking around about that last year. Someone's like, "We did trademark that, right? Because everybody's using it." So we've been teasing about we picked the perfect title. Indeed, it's all about pivoting, and that's what we've all been doing, pivoting in times of uncertainty, and ultimately we all getting stronger. Sometimes it doesn't feel like strength or growth in the moment, but we're gonna feel it afterwards. For sure. Well,
Definitely.
Michelle, thank you so much again. We'll put all the links in the show notes. Have a wonderful day and take care.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.